Hello everyone out there in the game-o-sphere, I'm VicariousBrian, and today I'm going to be walking you through my review of Torchlight 2. The original Torchlight was released on October 27th, 2009, to a generally warm reception. It was your classic dungeon crawling loot fest, and did most things well enough, but it also had a weak story, repetitive environments, and a very mild difficulty curve, along with many other minor slights. But with a strong modding community, many of these faults could be worked on. But beyond all else, many fans yearned for a sequel. And so, 3 years later, we have Torchlight 2, a sequel with much to prove. Now, this will probably be the shortest section. I want to talk about the plot for a little bit. It continues almost immediately from the end of Torchlight. The big bad guy has been killed, but a new threat rises from the ashes. It's actually pretty similar to Diablo 2 in a lot of ways, but it's not a super important part of the game. So the quest begins to track down this new threat and end its corrupt existence. The plot exists, but like I said, it's not a focal point. The writing's acceptable, though in the end unimportant. The overall plot is, as I've said, similar to Diablo 2. This isn't really surprising though. A lot of Runic Studios, the studio company that created Torchlight 2, is actually comprised of many of those who worked on Diablo 2 with Blizzard. It's difficult to knock points off for Torchlight 2 for a merely meh plot, as too much plot emphasis would really only hurt the loop-based action RPG that Torchlight 2 is. The visuals, and along with them the overall presentation on the other hand, are pretty important when it comes to a game like Torchlight 2. The presentation overall is similar to Torchlight 1. For those who are unfamiliar with the series, both games employ a cartoony aesthetic. Though the games don't come across as adolescent at all, those looking for a super mature and dark experience might want to check screenshots or a demo before purchasing. Alternatively, just look at some of the gameplay that I have posted. Regardless of one's view on art style, the graphics are undoubtedly impressive, especially considering the price point and the system requirements, both of which are very low, $20, and I figure just about any computer post-2006 should run Torchlight 2 with absolutely no problems. One of the points that will need to be hammered upon repeatedly will be the level of improvement from Torchlight 1, in all areas of the game though, not just presentation. The style is similar, but almost every area has been improved upon and picked over with a fine-tooth comb. Monster models are not only more detailed, but more varied as well. This isn't your traditional action RPG where you kill 20 slightly different types of zombies in a row. There's loads of unique creature types, many not even from the traditional Western fantasy lexicon. This theme of variety is one of the main pillars of Torchlight 2, it seems, and an often overlooked one in terms of presentation. And it continues in terms of dungeon types. Torchlight 2 is split between 3 main gameplay sections: outside sections, dungeon sections, and towns, and all span a large number of tile sets, connected thematically, but varied enough not to bore a player. For example, Act 2 opens up in a dry desert town. It's a pretty basic archetype of gaming environments, a desert, and a pretty plain one as well. But your travels through the randomly generated areas will span from traditional desert dunes and sandy pyramids to deep stone chasms and tall towers. And that's only one act. Throughout the game you'll also come across maps, both during the day and night, all sorts of weather effects, jungles, lakes, classic dungeons, frosted plains, blighted countryside. It's really amazing how many different areas Torchlight 2 covers. The items as well are visually pleasing. Even the potion icons give off this vibrant glow, a polish that is found all over the world of Torchlight. Gone are the days of minor color swaps. Most armor is completely different in design from the previous types, and due to the cartoony style, somehow easily identifiable whether you play zoomed in close or even far out. Weapons too cover a wide variety of styles, though in my experience less so than the armor. But this is balanced by how prominent most weapons come across visually. I have a great axe called Bone Shredder, and damn it, I believe that it can. Torchlight 2 immediately begins with its strong main theme, and not surprisingly, holds this high standard throughout the game. Matt Uelmen, of Diablo fame, composes the game's somber tracks that hold an interesting but not unwelcome contrast to the bright and vibrant gameplay. In a loop-based ARPG like Torchlight 2, it's easy to forget the music, and I admit the low and rich sounds do sometimes fade into the back of my mind, but I don't find this to be an unpleasant experience. The music disappears as you whack monsters and chug potions, and in your seconds of reprieve that you use to sift through your new items, you're reintroduced to this chocolatey, mellow soundtrack. Now, it's not all a mellow background music soundtrack, but for the most part, this holds true. There are other aspects to the sound design, but nothing that is immediately as recognizable as the soundtrack. The small tings and gulps of leveling up, moving inventory and the like are functional, but minor. The voice acting, while very good compared to most games, is used sparingly. It's fortunate because this keeps the gameplay moving quickly, but if there was an option to skip dialogue, I would have loved to have heard more of it because it really was quite good. The controls are mostly boilerplate. They function, and no major mistakes were made, so credit should be given where it's due. Especially considering the design changes utilized since the beta was released, where Runic tweaked both the user interface and minor things like enemy hitboxes, making fighting a dream. All the controls are also highly customizable. However, the one problem I have is that sometimes your character will stop moving inexplicably, and you'll have to click again to continue. But it's a minor concern. It also might not necessarily be the controls, it could just be a missed frame in the frame rate or something like that, but I thought it was worth mentioning. The gameplay is really the meat of any game. It's lifeblood. And Torchlight 2, while sometimes formulaic, executes what it sets out to do in the highest fashion. Anyone familiar with Diablo-esque style of ARPGs will feel right at home with Torchlight 2. The main concept behind it is that you're a hero, one of 4 classes: Berserker, Outlander, Engineer, and Ember Mage, who goes out on a quest, chasing mages, saving children, killing monsters, the normal fare. You fight to gain golds, experience, and perhaps most importantly, loot. With every level you gain, you can distribute stat points across 4 areas: strength, dexterity, focus, and vitality, as well as allocate, sorry about that, 1 skill point. Each class has a unique skills tree that allows you to learn passive or active skills. Passive skills are always activated and include things like powering up your defenses or boosting your fire damage. Active skills, on the other hand, are a bit more hands-on. They cost you mana to do something, like cast an ice storm or smack someone with a hammer to break their shield. There's no standout class that is better than the others, though there are some areas of imbalance, but patching is supported by Runic and problems have already been solved. Along with the fighting, looting is the other focal point of Torchlight 2. One of the greatest joys in gaming is finally finding that spear or glove that you've been looking for, and of course consequently selling that item in favor for an even better item later on. Torchlight 2 takes this formula and perfects it. With 12 armor and weapon slots to fill, there's always new loot to find, and because of the sheer number of slots, it's very easy to find a constant stream of even newer, better, shinier loot. Runic has found a key balance between work and reward, and even if killing baddies doesn't outfit you with the best gear, you could always socket a few gems into your items to make them even more powerful, or visit the gear shop or gambler to try your luck at a nice new piece of armor. One of the most unique and amazing features from the Torchlight series is the pet system, however. In many ARPGs, your inventory is a constant problem. It fills up too fast, and you have to constantly use scrolls of teleport home to sell all your extra items. But in Torchlight 2, you have a trusty pet to fight alongside our daring heroes. You can choose between all sorts of animals: cats, eagles, a few kinds of dogs, and more. Now, when you're out adventuring, you can give all your unwanted loot to your pet to hold, and better yet, you can send your pet back to town to sell your extras. You can even give it a shopping list to buy any potions that you might need. All this is done while you continue exploring. Beyond that, you can also use scrolls to teach you and your pet spells. Nothing like being healed from the brink of death by your loyal pet ferret. Or, alternatively, charging into battle with your group of zombies raised from the dead by your pet ferret. Of course, all this is not without basic tenets of gameplay design in place. Most of the world of Torchlight is randomly generated, to great success. The difficulty options, which were a big problem in Torchlight 1, are much more balanced now. The two easiest difficulties are a bit below where they should be in ease still, but the two higher difficulties, Veteran and Elite, are very well done. In a genre bloated with tanky slugfests, Torchlight 2 manages to infuse some skill in terms of dodging into its gameplay. Your character moves fast enough to actually avoid many spells and attacks, adding an extra layer to the often stat-driven experience if you choose to embrace the option and try and dodge attacks. If I did have to say anything about the difficulty, on the very high difficulties, it can be a bit too hard. And not necessarily hard in a traditional sense, but some enemies might even be able to one-shot you, which is pretty annoying. But for the most part, there are skills that you can use to make this much less of a problem. The full game will last you in the 15 to 30 hour range. A very solid romp considering especially the $20 price tag. When you factor in that there are 4 very different classes to try, an ample New Game Plus feature, as well as a shop where you can buy dungeon maps to play at your leisure, randomly generated worlds, and online co-op, well, the replay value is very high. Also, remember that Torchlight 2 is in the process of becoming a Steam Workshop title, with mods very likely incoming soon. Perhaps more than anything, it's the little things that define Torchlight 2. Stuff like extra endgame material through these map shops, the entire pet feature, extensive mod support, things like that. The glossy layer of refinement over the foundation of Torchlight 1 really makes Torchlight 2 an impressive game. The larger creature roster, loot drop rate perfection, and masterful ambient soundtrack all really create this amazing experience. There are hitches, minor movement problems, the cartoony appearance, which may turn some off, but overall Torchlight 2 is the ideal sequel. It not only reinforces the foundational concepts, but also reconfigures its previous weaknesses to make them strengths. And if you're not entirely happy with the game, mod support's incoming, you can tweak certain things. For example, I saw a mod not too long ago that changed the look of the game completely to be a much more gritty Diablo 2 kind of experience. So, I mean, the options that you have are almost limitless. Now, if I had to give it a score, I rate this game very high, probably a 9.2 out of 10. So, if you're looking into this game at all, I would certainly suggest buying. And that's all I have to say about Torchlight 2 for today. If you guys have any questions, comments, or need anything expounded, let me know. Put something in the comments or PM me. I'll help you in any way that I can. Also, Torchlight 2 is one of those games that I was thinking about Let's Playing if you guys are interested. So let me know if you are. I can't run it that great, or at least I can't run it at that high of settings while keeping a decent frame rate, as you guys have probably seen from the gameplay video. But it is a game that I very much enjoy, so if you guys are interested, I'll Let's Play it. Also, on a slightly more minor note, Diablo 2, another game that I would totally be interested in Let's Playing. So, let me know guys. See you next time.